The war had been raging for 3 years when Commander Sarah Chen's unit got pinned down in the mountain pass. The enemy, the Krell mechanized forces, had superior numbers and tactical advantage. Sarah's squad of 20 soldiers was outnumbered 5 to 1. That's when Max found the Krell soldier. Max was a German shepherd, part of the military's K9 unit. He'd been bred for combat, trained to detect explosives, to track enemies, to alert soldiers to danger. He was, in every way, a weapon of war. But Max had also been raised by humans. And humans, despite their capacity for violence, possessed something the Krell had never fully understood: compassion. Max disappeared during the firefight, a dangerous breach of protocol. Sarah was about to send a team after him when the dog returned, barking urgently, running in circles, doing everything to communicate that she needed to follow. The frantic behavior was unlike Max. He was trained to remain calm, controlled. Against her better judgment, Sarah followed. 20 meters from the main position, behind a collapsed section of rock, Sarah found him, a Krell soldier, severely wounded. His exoskeleton was cracked, leaking fluid. One of his limbs hung at an unnatural angle. He was barely conscious, breathing in ragged gasps. Sarah's training screamed at her to finish him. One clean strike, the enemy eliminated. No complications. Instead, she knelt down and radioed for medical support. Her unit was confused. "Commander, he's Krell. He's the enemy. He's injured," Sarah responded. "Get the medic. Now." The Krell soldier, designation Krethvor, regained consciousness in Sarah's field hospital. His first instinct was aggression, but he was immobilized, surrounded, completely at her mercy. When no execution came, confusion replaced rage. "Why?" he asked, his translator struggling with the concept. "I am your enemy. You should have terminated me." "A dog found you," Sarah said simply. "My dog. And he alerted me. He didn't see an enemy. He saw something injured that needed help. So I helped." Krethvor's biology was fundamentally different from human, but his neural patterns showed something surprising. Confusion processing into something that might have been gratitude. The Krell were engineered for conquest, for dominance, for victory. The concept of sparing an enemy had never entered their collective understanding. Sarah treated Krethvor's wounds. She fed him. She even allowed Max to sit near him. The dog seemed fascinated by this massive, frightening creature that had somehow become part of their unit. Over weeks, something unexpected developed. Krethvor began to ask questions about human culture, about why they'd spared him, about why a dog, a creature with no strategic value, no combat training in the traditional sense, had the authority to change a commander's tactical decision. "Dogs understand something we don't," Sarah explained. "They see past the uniform, past the enemy designation. They see the individual, the suffering, the need for help. This is illogical," Krethvor said. "It makes you weak." "Maybe," Sarah agreed. "Or maybe it makes us strong in ways you haven't measured." When Krethvor recovered enough to be returned to his people in a prisoner exchange, he carried with him something the Krell had never possessed: a different perspective on their enemy. He told his commanders about the human commander who'd saved him, about the dog who defied the logic of war, about the realization that victory through conquest might not be the only form of strength. The Krell leadership dismissed him at first, but Krethvor was respected, a decorated soldier, not some idealistic philosopher. And he began to ask questions that spread through their ranks. What if the war was based on a false premise? What if humans weren't inferior beings to be conquered, but different beings to be understood? 3 months later, Krethvor requested a meeting with Commander Chen, not as enemies, as representatives of their peoples. That meeting led to negotiations. Negotiations led to armistice. Armistice led to peace. The war didn't end immediately or cleanly, but it ended, and historians would later trace its conclusion to an unexpected moment: a dog finding a wounded soldier and alerting his owner. The Krell built a memorial to Max, not as a weapon of war, but as the being who taught them that compassion could be stronger than conquest. Sarah retired from active duty and started a program bringing human and Krell soldiers together, teaching them to see each other as individuals. Max lived to old age, surrounded by both human and Krell soldiers who called him hero. And on quiet nights, Sarah would sit with Max's successor and remember a day when a dog's instinct to help, not to kill, not to conquer, but simply to alert someone is suffering, had changed the course of history. Sometimes the greatest weapon isn't a blade or a gun. Sometimes it's the choice to see the enemy as someone worth saving. And sometimes that choice comes from the simple wisdom of a dog who never learned to hate.